Hi, this is Nate Hoffer with the Good Samaritan Shelter. I want to talk to you today about compassion. It drives so much of what we do here at the Good Samaritan Shelter, and I think that Jesus cared an awful lot about being compassionate towards our neighbors and loving our neighbors. And in particular, in the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37, I think that Jesus tells us very specifically some truths about compassion and how we as believers should live out compassionate lives and show God's love to people who are hurting in our midst. So a few things about compassion that I want to talk about today from the parable of the Good Samaritan. The first is that I think compassion is based on need and not worth. The priest and the Levite in the parable of the Good Samaritan, they passed by the man who was beaten and left alongside of the road for dead because they didn't feel that he was worthy of their help. He had a need, but they didn't think he was worthy. But the Samaritan understood that the man had a need and acted in a compassionate way. So many times in our own lives, I think we deem people to be not worthy of our compassion. Maybe because some of the things that they've done, or because some of the decisions that they've made. But for whatever reason, we decide that they should be cut off from receiving our compassion. And I think Jesus teaches us a different way. The second thing about compassion from the parable of the Good Samaritan that we should take away and learn from is that compassion feels something. This scripture says that the Samaritan felt pity, or he felt compassion for the man who was beaten up and left for dead. So you should feel something inside of you. You should feel compassion rise up inside of you. You should feel pity. You should feel bad for people who are struggling and who are hurting. And if you don't experience that, pray that God would give you that feeling and that his compassion would pour into you and that your heart would break for things that break God's heart. Really pray for that experience and that revelation in your own life. But compassion should feel something. And from that emotion of feeling pity or feeling sorry for people, compassion should do something. So after you feel compassion, it should compel you to do something. So many times I think we feel bad for people and we feel sorry for them, but it stops there. But Jesus tells us very specifically in the parable of the Good Samaritan that we're to do something. Compassion is active. The Samaritan, he put the man on his donkey, he bandaged his wounds, he took him to an inn, he paid for his stay, he did a lot of stuff, he did a lot of things, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be active in our compassion, not just sitting back and feeling sorry for people, but getting off the couch and acting out, doing acts of service for people. So compassion isn't based on need. Compassion is not based on worth. It's based on need. Compassion causes us to feel something. Compassion causes us to do something. And friends, compassion should cost something. There should be a sacrifice associated with loving your neighbor as yourself. It should cost you something. It should cost you your time. It should cost you your money. You should be giving of yourself in a sacrificial manner unto the Lord. The thing that you have to give, your act of compassion, should cost you something. There should be a little bit of a sacrifice for you in acting out in a compassionate way, because it's what God did for us. That how we act out in a compassionate way to others demonstrates our own relationship with God. Think about it. In our sinful state, God saw that we had a need, a desperate need. God felt sorrow for his children, for his people. He didn't just feel sorry for us, he did something about it by sending his one and only Son, Jesus Christ, to live on this earth and live a human life and suffer on the cross for us, which was a tremendous cost. A tremendous cost. So the way that we live out compassion and the way that we love others demonstrates our gratitude to what God has already done for us and to how compassionate he was to us. So you can radically change people's lives by showing extravagant compassion to them the same way that God has already shown compassion to you. So you can be a world changer and a good Samaritan today.